Hey everyone, welcome back to Philosophy and Coffee. Today I'm going to be discussing the religious and philosophical traits of The Shack, starring Sam Worthington and Octavia Spencer. It is classified as a Christian religious drama based on the novel by William P. Young, and I hope you all enjoy. Thanks. For those of you who don't know what The Shack is about, it details a man named Mac who grew up in an abusive household as a child, and later on as a father and a husband. His life is overturned as a serial killer kills his youngest daughter, and he begins to seriously question his faith with God. About a year later after her death, he gets a letter in the mail offering for someone to talk to him at the shack where his daughter was murdered. Upon returning to the shack, Mac meets the Holy Trinity, which is God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, and they teach him lessons about forgiveness and the meaning of life, and the relationship with God as a struggle through pain, not as one who stops pain. As some of you who are familiar with the story of the shack, many probably know that it is highly controversial, especially in the religious doctrine community, because it promotes the idea of universalism throughout its narrative. The idea of universalism is that God will save anyone regardless of poor behavior or sin, and there is no damnation, and God allows redemption upon redemption and forgiveness on forgiveness. It's also very broad, considering universalism holds that all religions are pathways to God, and God is not secular and just confined to one of those. The main idea of God presented throughout The Shack: first, God appears to Mac in the form of Octavia Spencer, which is a African-American woman, and it throws out the notion of God as an angry, judgmental being, especially related to in Judeo-Christian religions. But God also takes the form later on in the film as an old Native American man, which is very resemblance of the idea of the Great Spirit in Native American folklore. Now, the reason God is presented in a non-traditional way in The Shack is because God is portrayed as a healing being who heals pain instead of basing everything on religious doctrine. Even the character of Jesus in the movie describes how religion's too much work. It's actually quoted in the film how he doesn't want slaves, he wants friends, which reflects the idea of transcending religion through various prophets, whether it be Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Osiris, anything. God transcends religion, but the main point is, how does God heal pain through forgiveness? As the location of the shack in the film is the place where Mac's daughter was murdered and he has to revisit, the shack itself also portrays as a metaphor for the human heart and all the pain and trauma we hide away, not wanting to revisit. However, in order to heal and transcend the idea of pain, we must face it and overcome it. In order to heal, as the healing fades the pain away. One of the main controversial notions in The Shack is it's important to trust God to heal pain, but also when humans decide to choose evil, that is not God's doing. That is human nature, because God gave them free will. And in turn for that, the way God portrays in that scenario is how God takes the evil and turns good from it. As God does not orchestrate the evil, such as the murder of a little girl in the film The Shack, he portrays something positive and transcends the idea of Mac's character to actually help him overcome his own pain and to be able to help others in the foreseeable future. Another important attribute I want to discuss in The Shack is the character of Sariu, also known as the Holy Spirit. In Christianity and tradition, the Holy Spirit is God within us and allows us to do God's work and God's will, and the courage and tranquility to carry that out. Now in the film, Sariu, which is the Holy Spirit, is portrayed as an Asian woman, and Sariu means breath of wind. It's also known as one of the Hindu holy rivers in Hinduism. Now her portrayal in the garden, for example, when she is talking to Mac in a garden, is very reflective of Buddhist nature in the way of how judgment affects how we communicate with each other. Instead of showing loving kindness and compassion, a lot of people go to judgment and fear, which causes wars to break out, causes arguments to happen, and the Holy Spirit is trying to get into Mackenzie's character in order to help him transcend the idea that you don't need to live a life of fear anymore. It's okay to let go, and it's okay to move on and heal from your pain. There's also a scene in the shack where Mac has to go into a cave in order to overcome his fear of judgment. He meets a character named Sophia, who actually in Greek also means God's wisdom, also means wisdom, and in Hellenistic culture, Sophia is a goddess of wisdom. Now in the scene, Sophia puts things in perspective for Mac. She advocates that a loving God would never send his children to hell. And God forgives and forgives again. Sophia also allows Mac to catch a glimpse into the afterlife to even see his daughter that was murdered. But talking to Sophia and learning God's wisdom, it allows Mac to grow in his faith, because faith without works is blind faith and dead. So in order to establish the faith in relationship with God, Mac needs his wisdom and experience and initiative in order to take that action and actually grow a relationship with God, or Papa, as Mac is comfortable calling God. Another big thing I want to talk about in the film The Shack is the portrayal of Jesus in the film. Jesus is portrayed as a Middle Eastern carpenter in the film that is known as God's son. Now, Mac feels the most comfortable around Jesus and even orchestrates that he does feel the most comfortable around Jesus, which Jesus, of course, responds, "That's because I'm human. I'm the easiest way that no one can get to know God." He connects the human with the divine, and same with Christian tradition. In the film too, he's an easy way for humans to attract God and see God as a channel rather than God himself almost. But the same way, it is God himself because of the Holy Trinity. Now, Jesus also goes into detail about how like I said before, religion's too much work. He doesn't want slaves, he wants friends. And there's a scene where him and Mac are talking by the lake, and Jesus says, "I don't really care what you call me. I just want people to change by knowing about me," which advocates for the idea that it doesn't really matter whether you believe in Jesus or not. The universal tradition, as long as you find love in a certain prophet, that is learning about Jesus and God through that avenue, because all roads are different pathways to the same mountaintop. Of course, with all the violence and turmoil, especially the world is currently facing, and it's always been facing, Papa and God in the film The Shack advocates that even though Mac's daughter was murdered, God never left her. As hard as that is for humans to wrap our heads around, and we are completely supportive if Mac chose to take revenge and went after the predator who killed his daughter, God's in the pain with us. And instead of shoving the pain out, instead of forgetting about it, suppressing it, not feeling it, God allows us to look the pain head on, embrace it, and overcome it. Whether that's reflective in Christian allegories such as the cross and resurrection, or even Buddhist allegory with leaving a palace and attaining enlightenment and finding internal peace, or even old Greek and Egyptian tradition of overcoming and resurrecting in a whole new afterlife, it's all there. Because the idea humans are constantly growing and evolving, and through death and rebirth, in a way that we all go through turmoil, but when you embrace it and face it head on and overcome it, something beautiful occurs, and you're actually resurrected metaphorically as well as literally into a whole new person. You can find a whole new peace within you. Next part of the video I want to show is this part where I was talking about Jesus talking to Mac by the lake about religion, and I think this illustrates my point in a way that live action shows what I'm explaining in a more visual manner. Thanks. As noted earlier, Mac's character grew up in an alcoholic, abusive household, and what happened was Mac ended up killing his dad by poisoning his liquor one day and holds tremendous guilt over it. There's a scene in The Shack where God really emphasizes forgiveness, that it is you're allowing the pain to overtake your life, and you can't heal as long as you're holding on to that grudge, as painful as it is. So God actually allows Mac to even forgive his father in the afterlife, which of course is making an amends, especially in many recovery traditions. Now, even further, the bigger forgiveness part is where the Native American man comes, the Great Spirit comes to Mac as a father figure to help him overcome the guilt and the trauma caused by the serial killer. And now, of course, Mac at first doesn't want to forgive. He's completely justified in his anger and revenge techniques, but God advocates that it might take 1,000 times before it gets any easier, but this is preventing you from healing. So Mac ends up forgiving the serial killer because the serial killer is still God's son. God still wants him to be redeemed, as painful as that is. And that's the message of the movie, is healing takes forgiveness. You can't hold on to that grudge too long, because it'll overtake your life and fester into something that's pretty ugly and allows you to stay stuck in a depression state. Next part I want to show is when the Great Spirit actually convinces Mac to forgive the man who killed his daughter. Now it's by his daughter's gravesite, and it's going to be a visual representation of the idea of forgiveness, as well as the idea of God redeeming and finding good in the terrible evil that humans can commit sometimes. One of the main morals of The Shack is how a personal relationship with God to grow with and prosper with is more important than religious doctrine. Personal spirituality and personal relationship with God is not limited to one religion. It transcends and encompasses everything in a way. And Mac learned that. Of course, he hates Christianity because of his upbringing, his abusive father in the religious household, but as well as questioning, why would God allow my daughter to get killed? Of course, he's angry at God, but learns that God's not just strictly in Christianity. God's present throughout. Hence why he shows up as an African American woman and as a Native American man, because the Great Spirit, as well as the Papa relationship that he has. Whatever higher power someone believes in, it's important to remember that God's always in it with us. They even talk about in the film that, of course, Mac's questioning of why would God allow Jesus to die on the cross and suffer a torturous death, but God was there with the cross in the movie, because God actually, the Octavia Spencer's character, has the holes in her wrists as well as the Middle Eastern man, where the nails were on the cross. Now, like God's in it with us, God never leaves. No matter what higher power you believe in, it's important to recognize that God allows the evil to be changed into good. No matter how dark and evil the world gets, God can find the silver lining and turn things around. If you enjoyed my religious and philosophical analysis of The Shack, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave any comments or concerns that you have about my video. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks. Have a good day.